Shehechianu v'kiyamanu v'higianu lazman hazeh. I'm Alison Cohen, or Ali, truly either works, and my pronouns are she, her, hers. And today I'm calling in from the ancestral lands of the Piscataway and Nacotchtank peoples, which is also known as Baltimore, Maryland. And we're here together as the month of Av, or Menachem Av, continues to unfold. This is, as several of the teachers from the daily sits have named, a month full of emotions, of sorrow, of grief, of joy, and the list goes on and on and on. Emotions, as several of my teachers have reminded me, means energy in motion, energy that's meant to move through us. And so at this point in the Jewish calendar, the ups and downs of Av, they remind us to bring a genuine, loving curiosity to the messages we've received about emotions throughout our lives, to also explore our current relationship with feelings, and to cultivate a skill set for responding to them with care, because they will inevitably arise in ourselves and in the human beings and non-human beings that we're interacting with. And then throughout next month, the month of Elul, which is right around the corner, there's this opportunity to honor the critical role that emotions and how we relate to them play in the process, in the journey of tshuva. This process of looking back and looking forward in order to really return, reconnect, realign with who we are and with what truly matters to us. So Jewishly, bringing compassionate curiosity to our inner emotional lives is foundational to ethical behavior, to making choices that align with what's truly called for in a given moment. As I was preparing for today, what kept coming up was that in these months before the Chagim, before the high holidays, often my reflections come back to the same truth again and again and again, that the moments I feel best about over the past year were moments when I met the emotions in me and in others with wisdom and with care, not pushing them away, not trying to change them, but instead with a skill set for how to meet them and how to proceed with love. And then there are also the many very human situations that I'd prefer not to repeat again. Moments that when I reflect on them, offer me ample opportunity, and that's an understatement, to both practice self-compassion and to engage in the art of apology. And so these are situations when my speech or behavior caused some level of harm. I was going through some of these moments earlier in the week last week. And what I found was that more often than not, these are moments where a conversation unfolded in the way that it did because I lost touch with my own emotional landscape, or I didn't know how to respond to a feeling that was visiting, or I realized only after speaking reactively that I'd actually been feeling angry for an hour or two or three, but I'd been too distracted to notice, or hadn't wanted to feel the discomfort of it. So I told myself, that's not what I'm actually feeling. What meditation practice has revealed to me is that knowing what I'm feeling when I'm feeling it is the greatest gift I can offer to myself and the world. Open, kind, present moment attention oriented towards the feelings realm makes it so much less likely that I will cause harm. So earlier this year, I read a beautiful story about Harav Simcha Zizel Ziv, the altar of Kelm, who had a profound way of honoring anger's arising. He had a coat, his garment of anger, that he kept in the closet. When he recognized feelings of anger arising, he would slowly walk one step at a time over to the closet to get his coat. He didn't fight the anger. He honored its existence, its function, its likely valuable purpose. But he chose to create space between the feeling of anger and its expression in the world. Often the feeling of anger had already decreased or disappeared entirely by the time he got to the coat closet. Or, and this is my imagined scene, it had been metabolized enough so that he could actually respond skillfully rather than react in a way that later caused regret. And I'm sure some of you, maybe many of you, have heard the Viktor Frankl quote that this speaks to. Between stimulus and response, there is a space. In that space is our power to choose our response, that walk from the recognition of anger to the coat closet. And in our response lies our growth and our freedom. So as a deeply, deeply feeling human being, and that's an understatement, one of the mindfulness practice that has helped me most with mindfulness of emotions is the practice of RAIN. And it's an acronym coined by the meditation teacher, Michelle McDonald, and popularized by one of my main teachers and mentors, Tara Brach. And so RAIN stands for R, recognizing the emotion that's visiting, A, allowing it to exist, I, interest, bringing a kind interest to it, and N, nurturing it with compassion. And so I'm going to be offering a RAIN practice that will begin together in a few moments. And before we do so, I do just want to name that some of you may already be familiar with this practice. And if so, I just encourage you to experience it through a fresh lens or beginner's mind, as it's sometimes called. Okay, you might right now make any adjustments to your posture that allow you to be both wakeful and also relaxed. So there's this sense of holding the body in a posture of dignity and giving yourself space to be human, no rigidity needed. And as we begin this period of practice together, if at any point, for whatever reason, you experience discomfort beyond your own window of tolerance or range of resilience, please remember you are your own best teacher. Feel free to shift postures, open your eyes if they're closed, or just do something else that's grounding for you. You might close your eyes or soften your gaze, whatever feels right, whatever supports you in turning inward, buoyed by community, by kahila. This recognition, hineni, here I am. For some of us, it might feel right to rest a hand on the heart or belly. Hineni, here I am, choosing to show up in this way. And hinenu, here we are. Welcoming yourself, welcoming each of us to this period of practice. Noting how it feels to be wholeheartedly, imperfectly, tenderly human in this moment. And if it feels right to you, you might bring a caring attention to a familiar anchor or home base. It might be one you've used in past meditations. Or if this is your first time meditating, or if you'd like to try a different anchor on for size, you might choose the sensations of the body breathing itself at the belly, the feeling of your hands in your lap. Maybe it's sound being received, or it could be the grounding experience of sensing the weight of your feet connected to the floor and the earth beneath. Just choosing one anchor, and taking the next minute to familiarize yourself with it, to, in a sense, become intimate with it. An anchor that you can rest your attention on more fully whenever the heart, body, mind system would benefit from greater stability and a sense of return. And you might begin to recognize whatever is true for you emotionally in the here and now. In a sense, we're simply dropping in this inquiry. What's here? Maybe joy is visiting, or anxiety, or calm. There might be an absence of perceptible emotion. For some of us, it's an emotion combo. Simply naming, inwardly naming what's here with care. So we're bringing a kind, curious attention to whatever is making itself known. And if possible, greeting it by name. High fear, high calm, high neutral. Noticing what's most prominent and illuminating it in the light of awareness. Seeing if you can sense one main visitor. And as a way of honoring or allowing its presence, you might whisper to yourself, yes, yes, this is what's here. Yes, this is what's being recognized and allowed to exist. Simply a gentle yes. And if it's supportive, maybe posing the question, can I allow the presence of this emotion and wherever it's making itself known in the body, just for this moment? Can I allow it just for this moment? Knowing that if at any point it feels like too much, your anchor is there as a grounding resource, and you can always shift your attention fully back to the anchor. And so you might just stay here for a while, recognizing, allowing to whatever extent that's possible, maybe noticing if one emotion fades and then a new visitor knocks on the door, offering a new opportunity to recognize and allow. Or if what's visiting is a more challenging emotion, bringing a kind interest to it. Where do I feel you most strongly in the body? How do you want me to be with you? Or in other words, what do you need? What do you need? Whatever you may be experiencing, inclining your heart towards kindness, towards yourself, towards the experience of being a human with emotions. Maybe nurturing yourself by placing a hand on the heart. Here, human, with kindness towards what is. So we'll practice together now in silence, letting the anchor we've chosen keep us connected to each new moment in time, and offering any feelings that arise, recognition, allowance, interest, and nurturing. In this last minute of practice, you might take a moment to thank yourself for carving out this time. And also extending that sense of gratitude to each of us here, honoring that we really need communal support to engage in these powerful practices. May our practice together remind us that it is a radical act to turn towards what is with love and to do these explorations in community. Whenever you're ready, you might begin moving fingers and toes, shifting your gaze or opening your eyes, sensing into the body and the breath. Thank you for your practice.
Alison, thank you so much for that beautiful teaching and facilitation. I hope those who are here will stick around for a little bit. We have time for Q&A and some conversation in the chat afterwards, and we'll do that in just a moment. Right now, we have an opportunity for those who are saying Kaddish to do so. We have the text. All right, thanks to Rachel. Although Rachel, it looks a little cut off. Maybe we can just widen it out. There we go. And we'll invite you to unmute. And if you want to, in the chat, also put the name of anyone you were holding in heart or mind today as you say Kaddish, so that we can have them in mind as well. So you're welcome to unmute and join me if you're saying Kaddish. Yitkadal, Yitkadash, B'nei Rabbah, Be'alma Divrat Malkei Yamlich Malkei B'chayeshon B'yomechon
Yedefol
Kol
Beit
Beit
Israel.
Yisrael Ba'agala U'bizman
Yeheshma Rabba
Yehi
Mevarach
Shmei Rabba
Le'olam
Mevorach
Me'omaya.
Le'olam Ula'almei Amen.
Yitbarach V'yishtabach
Barach
V'yitpa'ar
V'yishtabach
V'yitramam
V'yitpa'ar
V'yitnaseh.
V'yitramam V'yitnaseh
Yitbar V'yitaleh
Yikhadar
V'yitalal
V'yitaleh
Shemei Dekushu
V'yitalal Shmei
Richu.
Dekudesha
Ne'elam Min Kol Birchata
Ne'elam min kol
V'shirata.
birchata v'shirata
Chata V'nechemata Da'amiran B'yalma
v'nechemata
V'yamru Amen.
v'yamran da'al.
Yehi Shlama Rabba Min Shmaya.
Yehi
B'chaim
shlama rabba
Aleinu
min
V'yal Kol
shemaya
Yisrael.
v'chaim aleinu v'al
V'yamru
kol
Amen.
Yisrael v'imru
Oseh
amen.
Shalom B'mramav. Hu
Aseh
Ya'aseh
shalom
Shalom.
b'ramav hu
Aleinu
ya'aseh
V'yal Kol
shalom
Yisrael. V'yal
aleinu
Kol
v'al kol
Yoshev
Yisrael v'al
Tavel.
kol yoshvei
V'yamru
tevel.
Amen.
Amen. Great. Thank you, everybody. Okay. If you need to leave us, we wish you Tzeitchem l'shalom. Farewell. Hope to see you again tomorrow or whenever you can join us. Same time, same channel. And now Alison is back here with us. And I also want to invite anybody to just share in the chat. If you have number one, a question, to please put it in all caps, just not the whole thing at the beginning, but question so we can. Oh, I'm just going to mute everybody here. Okay, hold on. There we go. Alison, you just need to unmute yourself there. We're catching a little conversation. So if you have a question, just to label it with all caps question and then type your question. And if you just want to share an observation, something came up for you during the chat, please, by all means. And usually we get a nice conversation going. So, but I thank you so much for that practice and thinking about the rain practice, which is one that, as you said, I think, I imagine some people I'm certainly familiar with myself, and how I'd like to just invite you to elaborate a little bit more about as we enter Elul and the work of tshuva, you talked about sort of how this can be a helpful practice for that. And just maybe to say, either for yourself, how you're thinking about that this year or how it has been in the past. rain specifically as a tshuva, as a building block, an element of tshuva practice, I think is just such a fruitful thing to say a little bit more about.
Beautiful. Thank you, Josh. So during the process of preparing for the Chagim, I have a tendency to really take the time and space to be radically honest with myself about ways in which I can improve and grow, especially in the relational sphere. And often as I'm doing this process, a lot arises, and some of it is hard to meet and be with. And yet there's also this clarity. If I don't honor my own emotions first, it's going to be hard for me to then engage in perhaps some interpersonal repair that needs to happen, because I need to be able to metabolize, integrate, honor what's here, rather than bring that in, project, spew, whatever verb you want to fill in there in the context of interpersonal practice, relational practice. And so for me, rain really supports, and I just want to say that in the way Tara Brach teaches it, she often refers to rain as the rain of self-compassion. That in order to meet our emotional lives with radical honesty, it's critical that we're lathering ourselves, layering ourselves in love, in care, in the recognition that emotions are what, as Pema Chodron would say, allow us to feel fully alive. And they're also often where we have a lot of room for exploration and growth from a healing standpoint. So for me, as it relates to tshuva, it supports the radical honesty process of, oh, where are my continued areas for growth? Ooh, this feeling, I don't really want to feel this feeling that's arising. Maybe embarrassment or regret or anger. Okay, I can walk myself through a process so that then I can see the situation more clearly, rather than have the lenses of awareness be clouded by undigested emotional experience that I would prefer to, in a sense, spiritually bypass.
Yeah.
And then I would say, in the context of tshuva that's interpersonal, each year there's at least one or two people where I ask for forgiveness for something very concrete. And in that particular process, being able to, in the moment, tend to what's coming up for me, and also recognize, oh, this is bringing up this emotion for this person. Can I be here and compassionately honor what's arising for them without needing to fix or change it? I hope that answers the question.
Beautiful. Yeah, really helpful. Thank you. There's a few questions that I see have come in. One was from Lisa about, or if, in what way do these practices require a community? Yeah, really interesting question.
Great. Yeah, that's such an important one. So there are many ways to approach this question, Lisa, and it's likely several other people on this call had the same question, but the educational psych research shows that if we want to grow and develop in really any area, it requires three interrelated components. So if you want to, let's say, we'll use this particular example of rain. Oh, and I'm seeing there are some questions about, can you spell out rain again? Just to make sure we're all on the same page. There's recognizing what's here, allowing it to exist. And then different teachers teach the I using different language, both of which can be helpful. I prefer interest, bring interest to what's here. In a sense, ask it questions. Some teachers, Tara Brach, for example, uses investigate. For some of us, that leads us to be a little bit too neck up. And so it can be helpful to have an alternative of bring interest to what's here. And then N is nurture with self-compassion. recognize, allow, interest or investigate, nurture with self-compassion. So let's say I'm trying to grow in this arena of learning how to both recognize and skillfully work with my own emotional life. One, I need an intention, a kavanah. I need a sense of commitment to putting effort in, but that's not enough. I also need the right strategies or tools or practices. In this case, RAIN is one of those. And the third is really critical. I need the right relationships to support me on that journey, both a guide and, or more than one guide, and a community of people that I can explore these tools, strategies, and practices with. And Judaism is all about finding yourself a teacher, finding yourself a friend, finding yourself a community. But the reason why the communal piece is so critical is because the mind has a tendency to tell itself, I'm the only one who experiences things like this. I'm the only one who struggles with how to navigate fear. I'm the only one who feels this intensely when I get angry. And so what happens in community is that one, there's a sense of normalizing, oh, this is part and parcel of what it means to be human. And then two, when we practice together, even online, which is so incredible, there's this sense of co-regulating each other's nervous systems. Co-regulating each other's nervous systems. There's some limbic resonance that happens. There's this sense of, oh, we're supported and buoyed by each other and by each other's commitment to practice. And what feels really important to name is that the research on self-compassion, which has been spearheaded by researcher and meditation teacher, Dr. Kristin Neff, it can be summarized in 3 sentences. Kristin Neff says, okay, you're having a really challenging emotional experience. This is a moment of suffering. In other words, recognizing it, allowing it to exist. Then suffering is a part of being human. Oh, right, I'm not the only one. A common humanity. And then the third component is, may I be kind to myself? And so when we're truly practicing self-compassion and honoring emotions, what we're really inviting in is mindful awareness or recognition, a sense of common humanity. Oh, I'm not alone in this. And that's so much easier to do when we're actually with the community and we have guidance. And then 3, this piece of kindness, kindness towards self. Yeah. I think that feels like enough.
Yeah.
You want me to move on to a different question? Or
I
how
think
do you
you're saying no, this is great. And so I mean and there's so many good references in here for folks who are interested in also other people's work. I mean, the people that you're referencing, Kristen Neff and Tara Brock and others, like just lots of helpful, other resources. There was also a question here that Pauline is asking and Harris is commenting on also, the relationship between thoughts and narratives and emotions, right? Like, what's generating what. And I invite you to just to respond to that if you like, just because since Pauline asked this question.
I think the first response I would have to that would be to pose a question. What do you notice in your own experience? What does your experience tell you? And so I'll just give a quick example from my own life. A few days ago, I'm not sure when, it's been a bit of a blur the last few weeks, I noticed this sense of sadness had arisen in my body and heart. And it felt quite sudden. I hadn't been feeling sad earlier in the day, and I wasn't sure what was really happening. And so I slowed down for a moment and backtracked what had been unfolding throughout the day. And I realized that a particular thought had arisen maybe 2 hours before, but I'd been distracted and busy and I hadn't really noticed it. And the thought was something along the lines of, maybe this friend of a friend doesn't like me. And then I had this moment of, oh, sweetheart, ooh, that was a painful thought. The thought arose, and then that, in a sense, inciting incident led to an unfolding of emotion. But that could have been an image. That could have been a situation at work. That could have been anything. And so the thing about emotions is that there's something. It could be, I forgot to eat, so I'm feeling irritable. There's something that leads to an emotion unfolding, a memory, a thought, a situation. And it can be powerful to bring curiosity and care to this cycle of cause and effect, of recognizing, and sometimes, often, we're not going to catch it, but there's something that's leading to it. And someone put in the chat that also emotions can trigger other thoughts. And so there can be a chicken and egg element to this process. But the main thing I would say is bring your own curiosity to it, and just know that emotions don't arise from nowhere. But often we think they're arising for reasons that aren't actually the reason. And one key example of this is the mind will be catastrophizing. Oh, this is going to happen. That's going to happen. I can't believe. For me, that's usually a sign that I didn't get enough sleep last night. Or as we say, I come from the K through 12 teaching world, we would say, eat for social justice. Because when teachers didn't eat, when high school teachers didn't eat, they were more likely to default to implicit biases in their interactions with students. But when they ate, oh, I'm more present here, and those emotions aren't arising in the same way. Yeah. Thank you.
Susan just commented when we didn't get to the story about the coat closet, but it's I mean the piece that I think was important also to lift up there is like that it's a choice to put on the coat, right? Like it's not incidental that it's a coat closet, right? Right. It's like, okay, I'm going to now garb myself in the anger. Like the anger is there. It's my choice about whether to put it on or not as a garment, right? Which is a classic sort of trope in Hasidic thought is, God is clothed in garments, right? And so we can clothe ourselves in garments. Is not necessarily our natural state. It's one of the things that defines us really as human beings is the ability to make those choices about what to put on, right? And are we going to carry this with us? Are we going to put it on, or do I want to put on a different jacket, the coat of compassion, or and there's the physical dimension that I so appreciated you talking about, Alison, of like, just taking the 2 minutes to walk to the coat closet, already allows for things to be metabolized, as I think you beautifully put it. So I'll give you the last word here. We're going to wrap up, but just this has been such a really beautiful teaching, and a lot of really, you got fans. So hopefully you got people coming to your course and getting your newsletter and stuff. So, but just anything last thought you'd like to share before we wrap up?
Thank you. Well, one, I'm seeing some comments about if I offer classes, and I'll just say maybe, Rachel, you could put in the chat again the way to join up my newsletter. I send a monthly newsletter with some classes that I'll be teaching and retreats and one-on-one work. And then I'll just say, in terms of a closing, a beloved colleague of mine, Dalila Bothwell, recently I was attending a teaching of hers about self-compassion, and she said, blanket yourself with as much love as possible to the point that it feels uncomfortable. Counteract this societal water that we're living in that encourages self-loathing, that encourages us to judge ourselves constantly. Whenever you can, do anything in your power to lather yourself up. And that's not as a way of bypassing life. It's because being human is hard, and we need as much love, compassion, and care, especially towards ourselves, as we can in order to show up with integrity. So thank you all so much. This has been such a
Thank you.
gift. I'm noticing a lot of emotions arising. And Josh, thank you for inviting me. I really
Thank
appreciate
you.
it.
Well, thank you so much. Thank you to everybody for being here. I'm sure we will have you back again sometime soon, I hope. So everybody, thank you so much. Thank you to Rachel on our tech today, and we hope to see you again tomorrow or whenever you can join us. Okay. Take care, everyone.
Be well.